Prashant said, I am a newly minted audio programmer here. So this is an experiment, really, and I will explain where this came from. So the question I was trying to answer is, what if music could emerge from conversation? That's obvious, right? I mean, when a band jams or when there's a concert, there is a conversation between the musicians. But what if this happened with just AI or agents, or if a computing process, which several computing processes, which collaborated and had a conversation, and is there any emergence going on? So why am I exploring this idea? So I am a trained South Indian classical violinist, Carnatic music, and while my training helped me with a lot of things, it didn't really directly help me when I had to get into performances, right? So for people who are new to the Carnatic music idiom, typically the concerts are, there is a vocal, a lot of times there's a central vocal performer, and they are accompanied by mostly the violin, and there is a rhythmic, a few rhythmic instruments, or at least one, the mridangam. But so I used to play a lot as an accompanying violinist, and I remember it's as clear as yesterday. The very first time I played a concert, I was super young and super like newbie vibes, basically. So I thought, oh, there would be a rehearsal, I would really nail it. And also I spoke to the main performer, and all they said was, I'm going to sing Raga Latangi. This is all I got from them. So I tried to ask a few more questions, but okay, basically nothing happened. So that's all I had to go with. And it's not like that's the only piece he sang. There were quite a bit. This was just a central piece. But long story short, that bombed. I mean, it was like the worst performance ever from me or from anybody for that matter. But the point there I'm trying to make is, to somebody who's listening from outside, some of these conversations that happen in concerts are, I mean, they all come together pretty seamlessly, and you don't really notice a lot of things, even though we have not rehearsed or any such thing. So it's a lot of it happens on the go. And just to be clear, I've played like more than 300 concerts after that, so I got really good. But there was a learning curve there. In how I would have a conversation, how I would respond to a situation where there's a lot of math. They'll just throw some math at you, and you're supposed to respond, and there's a lot of things happening. So after these experiences sort of got me thinking about, what if I had agents, AI agents, if you really want to get into that, do this sort of a conversation, not a Carnatic conversation. I didn't want to right away get into that. Western music, as you know, is more amenable for things like harmony and collaboration and that sort of thing. And there's less to worry about in terms of gamakas, none of that. So, and not to bring that down, Western is amazing. I'm a trained Western violinist as well. But the point I'm trying to make here is that that's what I've stuck on with, that idiom. So all our pieces will be around that. So that was the backstory of this experiment of mine. So several autonomous agents, each with their own objectives, and listening and responding in real time. So let's move on to the actual, I'll show you a piece. Yeah, that was, I didn't compose it. I didn't do anything. I just got the agents to, basically listen to each other and generate this music. One second. Okay, so what you just heard was four agents collaborating with each other, which was the harmonic, melodic, rhythmic, and textural. So the slide actually says it all. So chord progressions by the harmonic agent, motifs and melodies, and developing those by the melodic, and then like adjusting the tempo, the patterns, pauses from the rhythmic agent, and intensity and dynamics from the textural agent. So we have these collaborating, and okay. Yeah, okay, this is just to show you the sort of the pipeline of how things execute for each bar of music, right? So the harmonic agent, okay, so basically if you're familiar with AI agents, there is a concept that they speak about called the React framework. This has got nothing to do with React JS. This is reason and act. This is how agents behave is the thesis there. So in this, if you look, the harmonic agent has a read, decide, respond, act, and update the context. The context is super important in this whole thing. So we'll look into that a little bit more. So we have the harmonic agent reading context, deciding which chord next, responding in case the melody comes back with a bit of a tension, and then generating MIDI for the that particular chord. So, and the melodic agent, what it does is what it does is again read, decide, respond, act, and update. So the primary goal is to decide to whether repeat a motif or vary the motif, and then create tension, resolve the tension based off of the harmonic agent's notes. And okay. And the rhythmic agent here is, again, the same thing, right? Read, decide, respond, act, and update. So speed up, slow down, energy, intensity, setting any patterns, that sort of thing. So that's the rhythmic agent for you. And then you have the textural agent, which basically, again, louder, softer, contrast, supporting, so basically controlling the dynamics. So there is no conductor per se. This is the Agentic Symphony. So this is kind of like the conductor, which is taking care of those finer bits here. And finally, so the communication protocol. So I said the context was super important here. So there is a central musical context which is defined in a Python class like so. So basically, it's the shared musical state that all the agents read from and write to. And these are some of the attributes: current key, chord, tempo, time signature, and a bunch of other things. I will share a link to the repo if you want to take a deeper look into this. Okay, so I'll just show you a progression, how the harmonic agent alone would sound, and then add on one more agent and how that might sound. Yeah, you get the idea. It's basically just chords over chords over chords. Now, let's see if it's a little bit more interesting. Yeah, so those bits, those modulations slightly off the thing was, I found that to be interesting. So, I mean, just to go back to the central theme for a second, so I'm looking at if there's emergence here. Is there emergent behavior, right? So emergence can be very philosophical. I don't want to get into that, but is the overall sum of the parts sounding better than the parts, or does it sound more coherent or more pleasing, or whatever you want to define it? But does it sound like a complete sort of a piece than those individual parts? Is the thing that we are trying to explore here. This was harmonic and melodic, and then on top of those, let's see if. So by rhythmic agent, I don't have like a very obvious like a drum beat or anything. It's regulating the rhythm of the entire piece. That's what's happening. Pauses. Yeah. So, and then finally, all agents together. Added a few instruments. Yeah, so the agent thinks that if you use a trumpet, things like intensity or like it's the energy is amazing or something like that. So that was the reasoning there. But I gave it a bunch of instruments, sound fonts, I think that was called. So it had a palette to choose from. But initially I was just sticking to the piano left and right. Yeah, but one problem, I found with this, they never end a piece like satisfactorily. It's all like up in the air. I'm like, wait, what next? So that's something I need to look at to see if I can fix that. If anyone has any ideas, just let me know also, I'll try it out. But that's all. I'll just let this play so that. Yeah, see, it was like, what? The piece just ended. So, yeah, that was a problem. But yeah, so basically, okay, the next bit. So far, there were some rules. I said use C major. These are the chords. You can modulate to these adjacent ones. That sort of thing. It's a bunch of music theory that I threw at it. But I also started playing with a bit of an LLM piece there. So I just used Claude Sonnet 4 and for making some of the melodic decisions. I just found that 30% was a sweet spot because too much of LLMs can also be like number one, latency, number two, cost. Number three, too much create too much of unstructured thing, too much creativity maybe. So so this I found was sort of a sweet spot, but it's work in progress. We'll have to go and tune things around a bit, I guess. Yeah, so let me see 1 second. Yeah, so this, to build on top of that, yeah, so Claude would be given a bit of context, what we had in our shared context object, and then it is given a set of options, and then it gives a response like, so transpose, high tension. So based off of that, we try to change that particular note. So I could even show you the prompt right here. Yeah. So my prompt would look like this. So we give it a musical state and give it these options and guidelines, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. So. Okay, the central point that we are trying to look at is emergent behavior. So the entire system's behavior that arises from these small agentic interactions, not programmed in a like hard-coded sort of way for any agent. And so we had, so let's listen to a few of these. So call response patterns, whatever I have listed here, I'll let you listen. Yeah, again, bad, not a great ending, but you saw that there were these productive disagreements which were kind that, so which actually gave it a different sort of texture, a bit of a tension, so there were some dramatic arcs going on, right? So I'll quickly play half of each piece, each one of them is a bit long. Yeah, some of these are starting to sound very similar because I kept my experiment to a limited set of chords, limited scale key. So the next thing to do would be to expand that palette a bit and make it a little more interesting. So I understand that some of these are sounding very similar. Yeah, one last one. Yeah, voice harmony. Yeah, so that's it. Trying to be the system trying to be dramatic there with all those instruments. Yeah. So quickly on the tech implementation. So we have mostly it's a Python with the Mido library for the handling MIDI and fluid synth for MIDI to audio rendering, and then as I said, I use Claude. And that is basically a musical agent is like basically doing listen, decide, and act, which builds on top of the React framework, like I said. One last thing I'll show you is how the LLM. Let's look at how the LLM might. Yeah, so I have a few presets like dramatic and no instruments, that sort of thing. So what we'll do now is. Ta-da. Okay, so we will say preset LLM heavy. I keep it small, bars 16 maybe. Okay, keep it interactive. All right. So you can see the LLM melodic decisions just streaming in. So it talks about the high intensity at measure 7, calls for dramatic effect with contrasting, that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's done, render and play. Yeah. So that's how it, you can tweak things a bit if you wanted more LLM heavy or just pure rules.